You ask about the blood drinkers, and I answer as a son of Baal, one who wears the red and gold, one who has felt the thirst coil like a serpent around his twin hearts. I will not give you a scribe's account, nor a chaplain's comfortable parable. I will give you the truth as I have lived it. They were born when our legion was broken, when the Imperium feared the very strength it needed to survive. The second founding scattered us like embers on a cold wind. From Sanguinius's blazing pyre came many chapters, each carrying a fragment of his light and a shard of his shadow. We of the Blood Angels hid that shadow behind hymns and marble, behind the grace of perfect armor and the discipline of old rituals. The blood drinkers did not hide. They looked into the mirror, saw the beast, and learned its name. I met them first on a world whose sky bled iron. Orcs had turned its cities into engines of noise and smoke. We fell together, crimson comets through a storm of tracer fire. They moved like brothers I recognized, measured, elegant, lethal, and yet there was a weight to them, a focus like a blade pressed to the throat of their own souls. When the last gun barked and the last Xenos twitched, their chaplains came forward with chalices. There was no frenzy, no howling, only the quiet gravity of a sacrament. Each warrior drank, not to indulge, but to contain, not to celebrate, but to survive. Do you understand what that means? We call our curse the Red Thirst, as if it were a wind that comes and goes. For them it is a sea, and they have built ships upon it. They navigate by ritual and vow, by iron habit and the discipline of a knife's edge. I watched a blood drinker lower his helm, hands steady, breath controlled, as if he feared not the enemy, but himself, and loved his brothers, enough to master both. The Imperium whispers. It always does. Vampires, they say, like children daring one another to speak a ghost's name. The Inquisition keeps ledgers for men like them. I have stood before inquisitors and seen in their eyes the comfort of simple verdicts. But war does not honor simple things. The blood drinkers win where others falter. They hold lines that should break. They carve through horrors that teach sane men how to pray. And when the battle ends, they bow their heads and take the chalice again. Because victory feeds the hunger as surely as defeat. Do I admire them? I will not lie. Yes, their honesty shames me. We swathe our curse in gold leaf and stained glass. They bind theirs with chains and scripture, and drink it dry so it cannot drink them. Do I fear them? Also yes. There is a moment, in the hush after the killing, when their visors turn and the air grows thin. You feel the predator looking out through a saint's mask. You feel it because it lives in you, too. Judge them if you must. Call them monsters wrapped in liturgy. But listen, I have marched beside them. I have heard their litanies, low and steady, like anchors dropped into deep water. I have heard their litanies, low and steady, like anchors dropped into deep water. I have seen them refuse easy slaughter to hold a promise made to strangers who would never know their names. Whatever else they are faithful. This is my first confession. The blood drinkers are not a tale to frighten children. They are our brothers, ours by blood, by battle, by the long night we all endure. They do not deny what we are. They refuse to let it rule them. And in that refusal, there is a terrible, luminous grace. You have heard the whispers of their chalices. Now I will tell you what it is to see them raised. Among my own chapter, we call the blooding a sacred trial, a single sip from the relic grail, a moment that changes a life forever. But for the blood drinkers, the chalice is not memory. It is necessity. Their hunger is not an ember flickering in the dark. It is a fire that never goes out. And so they drink again and again, binding themselves to the ritual as a drowning man clings to the stone at the bottom of the sea. I stood once in their fortress, a guest among brothers. The walls were hung with crimson banners, every thread heavy with centuries of dust and sacrifice. At the center of their reclusium, rows of chalices stood gleaming upon altars. Each was etched with prayers, each marked with the names of warriors who had bled to fill it. Their chaplains moved with slow, deliberate grace, cradling those vessels as though they were relics of the angel himself. When the time came, the warriors knelt. They removed their helms, faces pale in the candlelight. Not one trembled, not one licked his lips in anticipation. Instead, there was only silence, a silence so deep I could hear the hearts beating in their chests. The chaplain offered the chalice, and each drank. The blood touched their lips like a brand, their eyes closing, jaws tight. Some shuddered. Some whispered prayers through clenched teeth. But not one surrendered to frenzy. In that moment, I understood. This was no indulgence. This was discipline made flesh. The chalice was their chain, their cage, their confession. By drinking in ritual, they denied the curse the power to break loose in chaos. They mastered it, not by hiding from it, but by facing it again and again until mastery was all that remained. Do not mistake me. The hunger does not vanish. I saw it in their eyes afterward, a glimmer of red in the dark, a longing not for wine or water, but for the very life-blood of man. They feel it always, I think, in every moment of stillness, in every heartbeat that is not their own, and yet they endure. I remember speaking with one of their sergeants after a battle. His armor was scarred, his blade slick, and his lips still bore the trace of crimson from the chalice. I asked him if the hunger ever lessened. He looked at me, and I swear to you his voice was steady, calm, like a priest at prayer. It never lessens, brother, but that is why we drink, not to be free of it, but to remind ourselves that we are stronger than it. Those words have never left me, for is that not what all of us are? Warriors who fight first the enemy without, and then the greater enemy within. The blood drinkers do not pretend otherwise. They do not coat the truth in gold. They walk their path with eyes open, chalice in hand, unashamed of what they are. And in that honesty, there is something both terrifying and noble. This is my second confession. I fear their hunger, yes, but I envy their strength. They are what I might be, if I had the courage to look upon the beast within me and not flinch. They are sons of Sanguinius who do not dream of angels. They drink, and they endure. War strips away all masks. On the battlefield, no ritual, no prayer, no oath can conceal what we truly are. And it was in war that I saw the blood drinkers for what they have become. It was a world choked with tyrannids, a sphere of bone and ash where the very skies crawled with wings. We descended together, their crimson drop pods striking the surface like falling stars. When the hatches blew wide, they poured forth with a silence that chilled me. No war cries, no roared litanies, only the steady thunder of bolters and the hiss of blades through alien flesh. I have fought beside ultramarines, whose precision is like a machine, with space wolves, whose fury is like the storm. But the blood drinkers, they are different. They fight with restraint, tighter than iron chains, and yet when the blood begins to flow, their movements sharpen, quicken, almost brighten. The more carnage surrounds them, the more focused they become, as if the battlefield itself feeds them. I remember one brother, his armor torn, ichor running down his greaves. Surrounded by chittering beasts, he fought with a beauty that was almost divine. Every strike a prayer, every kill a verse of scripture. Yet when the last tyrannid lay twitching at his feet, he knelt. He placed his gauntlets upon the corpse, lowered his head, and drank. Not in madness, but in solemn ritual, his lips pressed to alien ichor as though it were a chalice offered in the halls of his monastery. The guardsmen who watched recoiled. Some made the sign of the Aquila, others whispered of demons. And yet, when the swarm came again, it was that same warrior who led the charge, his eyes burning like coals, his fury dragging us all forward through the tide. Those men may have feared him, but they followed him nonetheless, for terror and salvation wore the same crimson face. It is not only tyrannids. Against orcs, I have seen them carve a path so drenched in gore that even the greenskins faltered. Against chaos, I have seen them tear through traitor Astartes with a ferocity that rivaled the demons themselves. And always, when the killing ended, they returned to their chalices. Discipline in the midst of horror. Hunger bound in liturgy. Vampires, yes, but vampires who have sworn their thirst to the Emperor. Yet I would be lying if I told you I felt no unease. There were moments in the thick of battle when one would glance at me, just a glance, quick as a shadow, and I wondered, did he see an ally, or did he see prey? Did the blood on my blade make him trust me more, or tempt him more deeply? This is my third confession. The blood drinkers frighten me. They frighten me because they are too close to what I might become. They show us the truth we dare not admit, that perhaps our curse is not meant to be conquered, but embraced, sanctified, wielded, and in war, where masks burn away, their truth is undeniable. They are angels of battle, yes, but angels with crimson fangs bathed in blood, feared even as they save, and I cannot decide if that makes them damned or divine. You have heard me speak of their discipline, of their victories, of the chalices that chain their hunger. But now you must hear the darker part, the whispers that cling to their name, like smoke in a burned cathedral, for there are truths about the blood drinkers that no one can prove, and yet all believe. The Inquisition has never trusted them. How could they? A chapter that drinks blood, that sanctifies its curse instead of burying it. Such things are not easily tolerated in a realm where even the smallest deviation can bring the shadow of chaos. I have stood in the presence of inquisitors who spat their doubts with venom. They are vampires in all but name. Do you not see it, son of Baal? They should be purged, their gene seed scoured from the galaxy, and yet the blood drinkers endure. They endure because when the Xenos come, when the traitor strikes, when the galaxy teeters on the edge of annihilation, none fight with such precision, such grim inevitability as they do. To destroy them would be to destroy a blade the Imperium cannot replace. And so, the Inquisition watches and waits. But it is not only the Inquisition. Even among the chapters of our bloodline, there are doubts. I have heard whispers spoken in the quiet of reclusiums, when brothers think no one listens. They say the blood drinkers keep vaults beneath their fortress, vaults filled with prisoners, not heretics, not Xenos, but men and women taken only to bleed. They say the chalices are not always filled with the blood of fallen brothers, but with the unwilling vitae of the living, drained slowly, endlessly, so that the rituals may never run dry. I do not know if it is true. Perhaps it is only fear given voice, a rumor grown fat on suspicion. Yet I have walked their halls. I have heard doors sealed with chains I was not permitted to pass. I have felt the weight of eyes upon me in corridors that reeked faintly of iron and salt, and though no proof was ever shown, my hearts beat faster in those places, for the predator within me stirred and recognized its den.